Coming up next here for you, connection to our phones and other devices has been compared to an addiction, and it seems like it's getting worse. Coming up next, how that technology is changing how our brain functions. Top neurologist will join me. Joining me right now is my special guest tonight. This is Dr. Lombard, neurologist and co-founder of Genomind. Thanks for being here, doctor. You've been watching this, and you are very familiar with the subject, obviously. And you agree that all this technology is doing a job on our brains, right?
Absolutely. I think technology affects our brains in ways that we're not even aware of, actually.
What is it that's doing the real damage? I mean, we just heard this whole report, but in your view, okay, what is it? The excessive amount of this, or what is it?
So I think that we need to understand that the brain is essentially a web of connectivity.
Right.
There's more connections in the brain than there are actually stars in the universe. That's how vast the complexity of the brain actually is. So our digital technologies are making us hyper-connected in many ways, but the quantity of our connections is increasing, but the quality and the depth of those connections actually is suffering.
Is there anything good that comes out of this?
Sure, technology is positive in a lot of ways. I think we can look at technology to understand the brain in deeper ways. We now understand that a lot of neurological and psychiatric diseases, depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, Alzheimer's disease, are all, in a sense, disconnection disorders. Disorders that one is either disconnected somewhere in a pathway in the brain or in their relationships with each other.
So where's the positive side of this?
By understanding those disconnections, we can actually personalize our approaches to medicine in much more specific ways, and that's what we're seeing.
You also hear about how these reports, it improves your memory, pardon me. Talks about also if you're using computer games for kids, improves mental rotation, motor and visual processing skills. Any truth to that?
Well, there's a grain of truth to it, but the reality is that the increasing reliance we have on search engines for our memory is actually hampering our long-term cognitive effects. So brain's like a muscle. Either you use it or you lose it. And the same thing is true with our GPS devices and our ability to do search engines and things of that nature. The more we rely on technologies for these aspects of our living, the less likely our brains are going to actually grow.
So best advice, what? Moderation?
Of moderation and limitation, especially in the developing brain. Very important to limit the amount of exposure that our children have to these digital technologies.
Looking down the road 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now, quickly, what do you see?
What do I see?
Yeah, what's it going to be like for us?
Well, I hope that we end up being empowered by our technologies instead of letting our technologies essentially control us. And my concern is that the more that we give over the control of our behavior and our cognition, our emotions to technology, the bigger the threat is of those technologies to the brain.
So we all have to be careful. It doesn't matter what age, right? Whether you're young or old, you just have to be very careful with this.
All of us need to limit the technologies that we're using.
All right, Dr. Lombard, thanks for joining us.